All right, today we're going to talk about measure central tendency, which are just mean, median, and mode. Right? But I like to add range. I like to talk about range here instead of covering it in a different section. So we're going to talk about range, but it's not considered a measure of central tendency. Right? Because some of the problems later on will ask you which is the best measure of central tendency. Your only answers will be mean, median, or mode. Okay? Mean is the sum of the data divided by the number of items in the data set. What's another word for mean?
Average.
Average. Hey, average is the word we use a lot instead of mean. It's all of the data added up, then divide by the number of items. If I wanted to find the average in this class, I would add up everybody's grade, right? And then I would divide by how many students are in this class. And it tells me what is the average grade. What is the mean? Right? What is the average in this class? Right? So if I ever talk about the average of this class, that's how I did it. The median is the middle number when the numbers are arranged from least to greatest. So if you arrange all the items, all the numbers, the median's the middle number. But what happens if there's two middle numbers? Because with even numbers, like if you have 10 numbers, you have an even number of numbers, right? Which means that you have two middle numbers. What do I do, Kurt?
If it's one number apart, you put it in the middle, like 0.5. If it's two number, you put the number in.
Okay, that's one way of thinking it. If they're like, let's say 20 and 21, you would go halfway. What's halfway between 20 and 21? 20.5, right? All right. You go in between the two middle. If it's two numbers apart, like say 20 and 22, what would be the middle number? 21. Right? Really what I'm doing is I'm finding the average of those two numbers. What if they're 3, 4 numbers apart? Right? What I can do is I can add those numbers and divide by 2, and it'll tell me that middle number. Okay? Because if they're 3 numbers apart, then halfway would be 1.5, and I'll just add it to the smaller number. Or you could just add the two numbers and divide by 2. It tells you the same thing. Everybody understand that? Right? So if you get numbers, you get two medians, two middle numbers, you average them. So add those two numbers, divide by 2. Mode is the number of numbers that occur most often. It doesn't have to be one number. It could be several numbers if they occur the same amount. Right? It's the number that appears most often, the one that keeps showing up. Range. Again, it's not a measure of central tendency, but we're going to talk about it. It's the largest number minus the smallest number. It gives you an idea. If I said the range for this class was 70 points, that would mean maybe like someone would have 100 and someone has a 30. That means from the largest number to the smallest number, there's 70 points. That's a big difference, right? Right? And so the range gives you an idea of what's going on in that class, meaning there's a big gap between the best grade and the lowest grade. All right, you need to write this down. All right, here's just a list of states with for how many representatives they have for each state. If I want to find the mean, what I do is I just take up each number. So I just add 53 to 25 to 19 to 13 to 19 to 29, to 13 again, 18, 32, to 30, to 15. When I do that, I get what? What do I get? All right, when I add those up, I get 236. What do I divide 236 by? 10. There are 10 states, so I take 236, the number of representatives total, and I divide it by how many states there are. There are 10 states. That gives me a mean of 23.6. That means the average state has 23.6 representatives. Right? Now I need to find median. So what I do is I list these and least the greatest. You do have to write them out to be able to do it. So I go 13, 13, 18, 19, 19. Oh, there is 15, yep. So plug that 15 in there. What's next? 25? 29? 32? Oh, marked out the wrong one. And 53. Now I know there's 10 numbers here. So I'm going to go halfway. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So these are my two numbers. Right here. Okay. What is the average of 19 plus 19 divided by 2? What is it? 19 plus 19 divided by 2?
19.
It's 19, right? When we get two numbers, we average them. Which if they're the same number, then it's the same number, right? Mm-hmm. But if it's two different numbers, the reason I wrote this up here is because if they're two different numbers, you need to know to add those two numbers, right? And it's going to be halfway between them. But since they're both the same, you're going to get this number. So my median is 19. How do I find mode? See what appears most. Alex, what number appears most? 19 appears how many times? But is that the only number that appears twice? 13 does too. Okay? Mode can be several numbers. So it's 13 and 19. Now my range here is 53 to 13. All right? My biggest number is 53. My smallest number is 13. So my range is 40. All right? Now again, that's not a measure of central tendency, but it's something that I want you to do as well. So from the smallest state to the largest state, there's 40 representatives, a big gap. All right? All right? You don't have to write this down, but let's just think about it. What if we did not include California? How would the data change? So what we do is we're just going to think about it, just talk about it. How would the data change? What would happen to the mean? What do you guys think would happen to the mean, the average, if you got rid of California? It would go down. Why would you say it go down? You took out the largest number, right? You had 236. When you added all these numbers up, you got 236. Right? Let's take out 53 from 236. You get 183. You take 183 divided by 9. You know what the average representative is? 20.3. How does that change from what the original was?
Minus 3.3.
Right? It went down 3, almost 4, right? Right? It went down 3 reps. What would happen to the median? Does the median change?
Oh wait, median?
Yeah.
The median doesn't change because you had two numbers. The two numbers were the same number, right? They're both 19. You take out that top number, you just move down 1, but you would still get 19. So the median doesn't change. But would it normally? Right? If you take out the biggest number, it moves down. So that means it would get smaller, right? So our mean got smaller, our median got smaller. What happened to the mode? It stays the same. Okay. Now the range we're not going to talk about it. Okay. As in, because your homework's going to ask you what would change most, that kind of thing. That's not one of your answers. But let's just think about it. What would happen to your range?
It would change to 19.
It would change. Your biggest number becomes 32. What's 32 minus 13?
19.
So your range went from 40 representatives to 19. That's a big gap, right? Big change. Hey, we call California an outlier because it has it's an extreme value. Right? It's a bigger number that changes. It makes you think you have more representatives. We thought we had, because when we include California, our average was 23.6 reps. But when you get rid of such a large state, your average rep is 20, right? You're only represented by 20 states. In some states, you have a much smaller number, right? So when you have an extreme value, a larger number or a really smaller number, it changes your data, right? Usually the only one that two affects is the mean and median, all right? All right. So just to answer this question, you don't have to write it down, but answer the question: which measure of central tendency would change most if we didn't include California in the data?
The mean.
The mean. Okay, the mean would change the most. Right? Usually, median would just go down one number. Right? Not necessarily just down one, but to the next number. But right, the mean is usually going to change the most when you get rid of an extreme. Right? You don't have to write this down, but I want everybody to read it. I want everybody to think about which answer is, and I want you to write either F, G, H, or I on your paper. So you've decided that, like if you want F as your answer, then write down F, hey, and then we're going to go through and talk about it. All right, it says Nico earned the following amounts raking leaves: 15, 10, 12, 8, and 17. If he drops the lowest amount, right, he has earned, then which of the following statements is true? Right? F, the mean decreases and the median increases. G, the mean and median both increase. H, the mean is unchanged and the median increases. Or I, the mean and the median both decrease. So what you need to do is you need to figure out what is the mean before the first mean, and you need to figure out the second mean. Right? What is the mean after? So let's find out what the mean is for the first one. So add up all the numbers: 15, 10, 12, 8, and 17. That gives me 62. 62 divided by 5 days gives me an average of 12.4. That's how much he made. Right? You guys don't have to write this down, just pay attention. He averaged $12.40 for raking leaf. Okay? Let's figure out how much he earned if he got rid of the bottom number. Right? Maybe that was the first time he raked leaves. Right? You know, or something like that, or the yard was really small. So let's say you get rid of it, you don't count it. Find your average now. So you had 15 and 10 and 12 and 17. When you divide that by 4, you get this number right here. 13.4. If I remember right. Right? Actually, it comes out to be 13.5. Right? So $1.10 more. So what happened to the mean? It went up. Right? When I dropped the lowest number, it went up. Just like when we dropped the highest number for representatives, what happened to the mean? It went down. So if you drop the lowest number, it goes up. Did everybody see that? Right? Now, which one of these do I kind of get rid of because I know the mean went up? Right? I can get rid of F, I can get rid of H, I can get rid of I. So my only answer is G. Right? But let's look. Let's check the median. Right? If this is the first number, 8 is the first number, 10 would be a second number. That leaves you with 12 as the third number. That's my middle number. If I got rid of 8, then 10 is my first number, 12 is my second number, so 15 is my third number. So what happened to the median? Well, it'd be between 12 and 13, which would be 12 and 15, so it'd be 13 and a half. Right? So what happened to my median? It went up. So G is the answer. So when you drop the lowest one, usually both go up. If you drop the highest one, what happens? They go down. Okay? Any questions? All right, you need to write this down. Okay, now this information is on page 731. I wrote it. But there's going to be a couple questions just ask you what is the most useful central measure or measure of central tendency. Okay, now these are your three options because range is not one of them. Right? But here's when you use it. Mean is when you have no extreme values. Now you wouldn't really want to use mean for the representatives because you had that extreme value that made everything much larger than it really was. Right? The median would have been a better one because the median was 19. The average was 24, but when I dropped the lowest one, the average became 20 and the median became 19. So that's a better representation of how many representatives you have. Right? And so you use the mean when there's no extreme values. You use the median when it does have extreme values because it tells you here's the middle point, which for us, that middle point was 19 reps. Right? you also use it if there are no big gaps in the middle of the data. You don't want huge gaps, right? You don't want an average of 10 and 20 and then 50 and then your average again is 75 and 100. Right? If there's big gaps, you don't want to use it. But if there's no big gaps, then median would be the best one that gives you the best idea of what's going on with the data. Mode is if the data has many repeated numbers. If there's several numbers that occur twice, or 3 or more, like 4 or 5 times, then you'd want to use it. For the House of Reps, 13 occurred twice, 19 occurred twice, so it gives you an idea, hey, most out of 10 of those states, 4 of them are below 20, and 2 of them are the same. They have both 13, and 2 of them have both 19. So it gives you an idea of what the data is doing, right? But you don't want to use it unless there's a bunch of many repeated data. Okay? So if the question asks, which is the best measure of central tendency, these are when you use them. All right, here's your homework. For like questions 1 and 2 where it says find mean, median, and mode, I also want you to find range. So you need to write that underneath your assignment. You need to find range also.